All right, fellas, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, we're going to do activity sheet 4, TV size, so ratios in the media. By doing this, what we're going to be looking at is basically, if you've never seen this before where it'll say formatted to your television or this movie's formatted to your television, it depends on whether it's in widescreen or you've seen those ones on a television, like you'd watch a movie and the movie is only like in here. And that's what we're going to be talking about as far as formatting. It's based upon aspect ratios and how we're going to break those down and how it makes sense appropriately within what we're doing. I'm going to simplify it as much as possible, but the whole mindset is it's still based upon the widescreen version versus the older televisions, which were called 4:3, and the new widescreen television of 16:9. So we're gonna work on that as far as finding out the exact size of a television, as well as determining the height and so forth. Okay. So, all right. So for a rectangle shape, such as a display screen, most TVs aren't square. They have a rectangle, whether they're really big or really small. Okay. The longer side is called the width. So I give you this shape as a width of a television. And the shorter side is called the height, or, up from top to bottom. The aspect ratio is W to H, or W divided by H, okay? We don't know what the aspect ratio is just yet on this. What we do know is this is what we would consider a 25-inch television. For those of you guys who don't know that, when you have a television, the size is based upon the diagonal from diagonal. So when you have a 60-inch television, it's from one corner of the screen to the other corner of the screen. Back in the day, they might have, a TV that's like this, but then the screen is like this big, so they're only measuring here, because you have that thick border. Now, a lot of them are like, seriously, the screen is almost up to the edge. It is so, like, there's not a lot of space on the front of these big screen TVs, short of the screen itself. All right? So the size of a television is the length of the diagonal of its screen in inches. The aspect ratio of the screen of older televisions is 4:3. Okay, the aspect ratio is 4:3, while the aspect ratio of newer widescreen television is 16:9. So if you had an older one that had a ratio of 4:3, you could probably go into your settings and change it to 16:9. And if you couldn't, that's why you would see some of these that you'd have movies that were like this. Okay? You'd have the movie that was set for 4:3 a TV that was set for 4:3 when the movie was filmed 16:9. So that's kind of, if it gives you any kind of realization of what we're looking at here, that's kind of what we're talking about. Okay? So it says find the width and the height of an older 25-inch television whose screen has an aspect ratio of 4:3. To find 4:3, we have to find, to find the width and the height, we have to find something called K. Okay? We don't know what K is. But K is a variable, is a number. So to determine that, we have to go through and we say, well, our 4:3 is our aspect ratio, right? That's not, your width isn't 4. In other words, this isn't 4 inches and this isn't 3. The ratio, the aspect ratio is 4:3. The width will be something dependent on K. So what we're going to have here is we'll have 4K. So our width will equal 4K. Our height will equal 3K. And we're going to use, based upon this, because we could consider this a right triangle. So because it's a right triangle, we can use Pythagorean theorem to determine our size. So we'll say W is 4K. 4K, let me rewrite it like this. So 4K is W squared plus 3K squared equals squared. So again, to reiterate, we're going to use this triangle, right triangle, because it's a square, rectangle, so got a 90-degree angle there. Our aspect ratio is 4:3, but we don't know what our length is or our height. So we'll use quadratic formula. And since W is 4K, we don't know what that is. We don't know what the value of K is. We have to determine that. And there's no K in our diagonal. Our diagonal, we know the length of it. It's 25. Here, we don't know the length of it. So if it's 25, so now when you square this, this is the equivalent of 4K times 4K, which is 4 times 4, which is 16, and K times K, which is K squared. This is 3 times K times 3 times K, which is equal to 9K squared. And this is equal to 25 times 25, which is equal to 625. 25 times 25 should be 625. From there, just like normal, solving equations, combine like terms. And solve. So we got to divide both sides. $625 divided by 25 is 25. We take the square root of both sides. K equals positive and negative 5. Since K is a length, it can't be negative. It has to be positive. So our K value is equal to 5. So to determine our width, our width is equal to 20. And our height is equal to 15. Step by step, right triangle, find K, use quadratic formula, Pythagorean theorem. If I said quadratic before, I apologize. Pythagorean theorem. Plug in your values depending on what is provided for your aspect ratio. Again, we're finding K. K is the variable we're looking for. And then when we find it, we plug it back in, and we determine our length, our width, and our height. Okay? So if we have that now, I'm going to erase all this. We know that we have a TV. I'm going to put this over here as I roll up to the next one. Find the area of the screen. Well, we have this TV. That is 20 by 15 and 25 across. It says find the area of a television screen. So the area, since it is a rectangle, is length, height is times width, if you will, So we could have height times width. So my area is equal to 20 inches times 15 inches. The area of the television equals 300 inches squared. So over this, there are 300 inches squared. It's 20 across and 15 down. There's 300 of those to cover this television. 20 square inches across, 15 square inches up and down. So 300 square inches is your total. That is number one and number two. That's the gist of what we'll be looking at. Okay? So we're going to do, I believe, 3 and 4. A little bit different, a little bit more challenging. Let me make sure I got it. Yep, there we go. Have 3 and 4. Let me make sure I'm still recording so I don't do this all on my own. It only took 11 minutes. That's great. All right, so it says repeat the process to find the width and height of a newer 48-inch television whose aspect ratio is 16 to 9. Hint, do not simplify any answers until the final answer. So draw a picture. So we're just going to draw this picture. And that's 48 inches. And here's my width, and here's my height. Remember that the aspect ratio is always W to H, okay? Or it's W over H, like that. So my W is 16. And my H is 9. And we're still looking for K, because we don't know it. We follow the steps appropriately as well, using Pythagorean theorem. I'm going to need some calculators for this one. I know what 16 to 9 is, but not quite sure what 48 is squared. 16 squared, let me make sure I do this right. 16 squared is 256. I should know that off the top of my head, but I'm thinking about a few things. 9 squared is 81, and K gets squared as well. And 48 squared is 2304. Okay? So we put those together, we combine here and here. 256 plus 81 is 337. And it's K squared. And it still equals 2304. Divide both sides. I'm not, again, do not simplify until your final answer. So I'm going to keep this as K squared equals 2304 over 337. Because if I do that in a calculator, 2304 divided by 337, I'm going to get 6.8 3679552. I don't want to write all that. I'd rather write that. It's just easy. Okay? And I don't want to then type all that back and so on and so forth. From there, you can just take the square root of both sides. Okay? And when you do that, you know that K equals the square root of 2304 divided by 337.
if you put that into a calculator, you're going to end up with the square root of the answer, which would be, come on out, 2.61472661. I don't want to write all that out either. Don't separate till you get to the whole shebang, okay? Don't separate till you get to the whole shebang. So if I'm looking for, repeat, so I'm looking for what's my width and my height. So basically, I'm just going to say 16 times 2304 divided by 337. If I do that, 41.835. So I got W equals 41. Did I go all the way out? I did go all the way out because I'm not going to get to the end. 41.8356257 and 8 inches. Or you could just leave it as that. Okay? If you got to the next one, you'd have 9 times square root of 2304 divided by 337. And your height would be equal to 23.5325395 inches. So again, if you're taking multiple choice, then obviously you go from there. So when I want to find my area of my screen, I could simply say, well, my area equals 16 2304 times 9 Now remember that 5 came out cleaner. Our K up here is technically didn't come out so clean. Okay? Didn't come out so clean. So you may be asked just to find K sometimes. And it may be rounded off or it may be just like that. So if you multiplied this all the way out, you would have ended up with 984.5 inches squared. I rounded that time because it says don't round till you get the final answer. The answer would have been 984.4985161. So I rounded up to that 10. So it's 984 or 980. You know, you could do this if it asked you to round up as well. You know, inches squared, somewhere in that range. Okay, it will be straightforward. The other problems that are on the back, we're going to skip for this time being, but that's how you're going to find the aspect ratio. Excuse me, you're going to use the aspect ratio to find the size of the television, then use the size of the television to find the area of the television's screen. See you.